I turned 20 recently, and for my 20th birthday, besides getting me this awesome chair, my mom got me a Warrior Cats mini mystery plush to honor the fixations of the past. There are 8 different cats that you can get, so place your bets as to which one I got, and tell me if you got it right in the comments. Unboxing time. I'm very excited. I didn't realize these were a thing until I saw one of my friends get it. And then I told my mom, and she was like, I just saw this at Walmart, and she got it for me. W, Mom. I had a long day at work, and my brain is running at like 50% capacity. Lots of long pauses that I'll edit out the long pauses because it's just my brain like flatlining. Oh, I read the reviews, and most of the negative reviews for this were older folks not understanding that it's a gacha game, and so there's only one plush in it. They were under the impression that it was all 8 of them, so that's unfortunate for the old grandmas who are getting them for their kids. I mean, this box literally says 1 plush on it. I don't know if all the boxes say that or they updated the design. Can people read challenge? The answer is no. To be fair, I'm also someone who doesn't read instructions and just jumps right into it. Head first, diving in, off the diving board. Dude, they treating this like a Mona Lisa or something. Alright, there we go. I forget that it's opposite. No, wait. But we have Brambleclaw, Brightheart, Firestar, Graystripe, Hawkfrost, Scourge, Tallstar, and Yellowfang here. Those are the 8 cats. Now if I get Brambleclaw, considering he's uncommon, okay, so, well, he's the first one, so I gotta talk about him first. What's to say? I think originally he wasn't actually that bad. He was just Firestar's apprentice. There's like the lead. I have to explain Warrior Cat's lore here. In the beginning, there are 4 clans. There's Thunder Clan, who's in the forest. There's Wind Clan, who's in the plains. It's kind of like Settlers of Catan. There's River Clan, who are the cats that can swim. And then there's Shadow Clan, who's also in the forest, but it's more like a pine forest versus oak forest. So most of these cats, and most of the cats in the first series, are revolved around Thunder Clan. They're like the Gryffindor. No, really, they are the Gryffindor. And I would say Wind Clan is Hufflepuff, and Shadow Clan is Slytherin, and River Clan is Ravenclaw. The parallels there are, they actually line up perfectly. In a clan, there's lots of different roles that they have going on. And we're gonna go based on first series, basic rules. They have a leader who, you know, leads the clan. They usually like sit in the den where they only come out when it's really necessary. They're in charge of everything going on. They get 9 lives that are granted to them by like the religious ancestors who are called Star Clan. Star Clan bestows upon leaders 9 lives, and that's them accepting the person as a leader, and that's when they get the star added to their name. So we have Firestar here. Spoiler alert, he becomes a leader, but he's not the leader at the beginning. No, little bro is a kitty pet, and we'll get to that. Okay, so there's the leader, and then there's someone called the deputy, which is second in charge. They're in charge of organizing the patrols, saying, okay, you hunt, and then you go check the border and piss on things. Everybody talks to them, and then they go talk to the leader, you know, but they don't have the star to their name, and they only have 1 life. But if the leader with the 9 lives loses all 9 lives, then the deputy is the one who then rises up in the ranks and becomes the next leader. The deputy is chosen by the leader, I believe. And if the deputy dies before the leader, then the leader just chooses another one, right? So those are the main roles going on. Then it kind of splits off into like the regular old schmojos. There are warriors, just like the title of the book. And then there are medicine cats. And then there's like stuff going on with the nursery. Generally, warriors are either females or males that go out on border patrols, they go out and hunt, they go out and battle if the clan needs. They're the ones, boots on the ground, the guys doing the job. So the deputy, when sending out patrols, might assign a more senior warrior to the head of the patrol because they know they can trust them. But there's also elders, so don't get confused, seniors versus elders. Different things. Elders are warriors that have, or leaders, or deputies, just any cat that has reached a really old age and is ready to retire. And then they just sit around. They're generally fed first alongside the kits. So a warrior will hunt, and if the fresh kill pile isn't high enough, then they'll go feed the elders first and the kits first, because the sick and elderly and, you know. They're generally treated with a lot of respect, but it's also part of apprentice tasks, we'll get into those, to take care of the elders. And since they're like young cats, they're generally like, I don't want to go hear them talk about their stories again, you know? In the nursery, it's usually warriors, female warriors go into the nursery once they're like bearing kits, and once they have kits. And when the kids become apprentices and like they grow up, then the mother cat will generally go back to being a warrior. So it's a temporary position. There have been some cases where a cat is stationed in the nursery forever just because they're better at that than being a warrior, but that's kind of a fringe case. It doesn't happen very often. The most interesting role to me is a medicine cat, because they have rules separate from the entire rest of the clan. They are the ones who keep all the knowledge about the like herbs and berries that grow around. And so they collect them and keep a stock and then take care of any of the sick cats in the camp. And it's a very prestigious position, almost more important than the leader. So they're also expected to follow very niche rules. Like they can't have mates or kits because that would create like a conflict of interest. However, they do tend to talk to the other clans in a more friendly manner than any of the like warriors, leaders, etc. Those ones are fighting with the clans, but the medicine cats will trade herbs and stock with other cats and can take care of other cats if something happens with their medicine cats. So they're more of a collaborative position, but it is very interesting that they're not able to bear kits or have mates because it's a conflict of interest. They also have a special line with StarClan. Their ancestors, like they tend to have dreams or prophecies, and then they bear the prophecies to the leaders, and the leaders decide what to do. So a cat becomes a medicine cat if they have that sort of connection with StarClan established, or if they're an apprentice and they're like, well, I don't want to be a warrior, so I'm going to train under these cats and learn about herbs and stuff. And then sometimes it doesn't work out, so they'll swap back to being a warrior. But apprentices are the kittens that reach 6 months of age and are then ready to train to be a warrior. They're assigned mentors who are just regular standard warriors, or they can be a leader or deputy as well. I mean, bragging rights if your mentor is the leader. But yeah, generally a warrior will become a mentor and then teach the apprentice. And the apprentice then like goes through about 4 months of training and has to pass tests to prove that they like know their way around and can become a warrior then. Their suffix is kit until they become an apprentice, in which case it becomes paw. And then once they are deemed to be fit to be a warrior, then they gain their actual suffix, which is given to them by the leader. So the leader really can make or break these cats' names. Gonna be so for real. The medicine cats have a little bit of a different naming scheme going on. Generally, their training as apprentices goes on way longer, can go on even like a year. And then they'll go alongside all of the other cats who are medicine cats, and the apprentices go to the moon pool, which is a separate place, a special place where they can talk to StarClan. And in that case, they're given their special medicine cat name. So that's the baseline of how clans work. There's also like gatherings where all the clans every month would meet together. The leader picks what cats go to what gathering. A lot of drama happens. They get the tea on what's going on, and generally it's supposed to be very low-key, like this is not a place where we battle. We can battle all other 30 days of the month, but not today. Anyway, all that to say, Brambleclaw. He became Firestar's deputy, and I think he was Firestar's apprentice as well. And then he fell in love with Squirrelflight, who was Firestar's kid. Whoa, guys. But the reason why I don't like him happens later on, not in series 1. But it has to do with how he ends up treating Squirrelflight. Like, he's very not a good husband. So, like, that's why we low-key don't want this guy. And he's an uncommon, so we better not get him, bro. And then there's Brightheart. As an apprentice, excited to be a warrior, something happening during this arc where there were a lot of dogs around the camp, and it was becoming very dangerous. So she and another cat, the apprentice, I think they decided to go prove themselves and like battle the dogs or something. Brightpaw at the time ended up getting slashed across the face, and she lost her eye. She lost like most of her face. The leader of ThunderClan at the time was like she was going through it, girl. Her name was Bluestar. It's a whole thing, but she was not mentally sound. So the cats came back, and you know, Girly Paw was like, and Bluestar was like, you know what, we're gonna call you Lost Face now. So that was a thing that happened. They kind of retconned that. So then instead of Brightpaw, they named her Brightheart because, you know, heart of gold, you know? So that's her. I like her. She's got a strong spirit. Then there's Firestar. I feel like he's the Harry Potter of this world. He was a kitty pet, which is just someone raised by humans. Very looked down upon because they're like coddled or whatever. Like, here's your food every day, and like you don't have to battle, and if you're sick we'll take you to the vet. Why wouldn't you want that life? But anyway, he decided that he didn't want to be coddled anymore, and he wanted to join the clans. So like literally all of arc 1 was him trying to prove himself and be like, I'm just like you guys. Just because I was a kitty pet doesn't mean that I deserve any less, and I'll work hard to be a warrior. Goody two-shoes kind of character. And I think my opinion of him is that things happened around him and he reacted to it versus him causing things to happen. Which I could be remembering incorrectly, but I feel like he didn't necessarily drive the narrative as much as I would have liked. Like, his story was an amazing first story, amazing way to introduce the whole world of warriors. Coming in through an outsider's eyes and learning all of it is actually an amazing narrative and actually very smart. Then there's Graystripe, and if we're still going with the Harry Potter analogy, he would be definitely the Ron to Firestar. He was an apprentice when Firestar came in. He was Firepaw at the time. This was Graypaw. They became best buds, inseparable. They had like a trio going on with Ravenpaw as well, but Ravenpaw was like an anxious wreck because his mentor sucked. Graypaw was kind of the comedic relief. He did have some stuff falling in love with the wrong cat. Who can blame him? He was a lover boy. There's a lot of arcs about him that I wasn't fully aware of. He has a lot of lore that I still don't quite understand. I think I probably understand Ravenpaw's and Firestar's lore a little better, just because I didn't read the spin-off books with him and his adventures when he got taken from the clan. Then there's Hawkfrost. I swear Hawkfrost was an arc 1. Maybe series 1 means the first set of cats they're sending out, not necessarily the first arc. So Hawkfrost and his sister Mothwing, I believe, were kids of the big bad in series 1, Tigerstar. Tigerstar was the villain, but I think he went and had kids with a kitty pet, and then the kitty pet brought them to RiverClan. So Mothwing and Hawkfrost grew up in RiverClan under a different mom. Because she was like, I can't provide a life for you, but I know these cats in the forest can. So Mothwing grew up to be a River Clan apprentice, but a medicine cat apprentice. And the thing with her is that she's an atheist. She doesn't believe in StarClan. She can't talk to StarClan. Probably influenced by her being an outsider coming in. But that's probably one of the most interesting characters that we have, an atheist set in a religious role. So everything about her is very fascinating. But they chose her brother. Brother is complicated. I think he ended up becoming a villain. Brambleclaw might have been Tigerstar's kid. So these guys, these two are half brothers. Hawkfrost always felt like a second man to Brambleclaw. He could never be what Brambleclaw was. And he like kind of looked up to him. I think he was younger than Brambleclaw, which also played into it. And they were in different clans. One of the biggest plot points with Hawkfrost was that Firestar got caught in, I think it was a bear trap or a dog trap or something. Probably a bear trap. So he got caught into a bear trap, which I think Hawkfrost led him to. And Brambleclaw was there. So it was Brambleclaw, Hawkfrost, Firestar. And Hawkfrost was like, see, if you kill Firestar, he's caught right now, he's injured. If you kill him, you can become the leader, like you've always wanted to be. And Brambleclaw was like, hell no, brother, what? Established Hawkfrost as a villain, and I think Tigerstar influenced Hawkfrost into doing so. He definitely wasn't a great influence on his kids, given that he was like a mass murderer. There's Scourge as well, which is an interesting pick. Scourge is another villain that I don't know a lot about. I know he's like a murderer, and I think betting on dogs, like dog fights. I want to say he had something like that, but with cats. So, like, people would bet on cat fights or whatever. He wasn't a part of the clans, but I think he ended up, like, fighting Firestar in some way, and then he got, like, brutally murdered. But I don't know that much about him. Tallstar is also an interesting choice. He's the Wind Clan leader. Like, I remember more about One Star than I do about Tallstar. And I get them mixed up. I need to check. He's not the gay one. Is he the gay one? So I typed in, is Tallstar, and then it literally came up for me, is Tallstar gay? So, I remember now. There's a lot of gay but not gay characters in Warrior Cats. I think because they sell internationally, they can't confirm cats as gay, but there's like heavily implied. So Tallstar is one of them, but another cat, Barley, who lives by Wind Clan, is also gay for Ravenpaw. It's a long story. So I was getting them and One Star confused. One Star is just a leader that ended up being kind of friends with Firestar when he took over. Tallstar had a very close relationship with a cat named Jake, who I think was a kitty pet or an ex-kitty pet or something, which is why he didn't have the warrior name. They were, you know, kind of like that more so, but yeah, I remember reading about that. I remember it being so sad. Everybody loved it. I feel like I didn't know enough about it. I think it was in the main story enough. I think it might have been in his spin-off book, and I didn't read the spin-off book, which is why I don't know that much about him. Then there's Yellowfang. I really like Yellowfang. She's a complicated character, very complicated, incredibly complicated character. And I think she reminds me a lot of Grammy. And it's hard to unpack why necessarily. I think because she was a sort of, not maternal, but like mentor figure to Firestar. Yellowfang was originally part of Shadow Clan. And she was a medicine cat in Shadow Clan, but she ended up having kits, which was big no-no. Don't do that. It's seen as a noble sacrifice to become a medicine cat because you're sacrificing your entire personal life for the better of the clan, the betterness of the clan. So she had kits. All of her kits died except one, but she got kicked out of the clan. So then she just was a loner for a while until she got really sick, and Firestar, who was Firepaw, I think, Firepaw ended up finding her. He invited her into ThunderClan and she became a part of ThunderClan, especially helping out with medicine and stuff. There was a lot of parallels of her being an outsider alongside Firepaw being an outsider, and then like kind of bonding about it. She was always very gruff, was a little bit tough, but like definitely loved very deeply. But I think she had trouble showing it. Probably one of the most emotionally complicated characters that they had. And then there was like Brightheart, who was complicated as well. There were a couple, but that introduced later on, they got better at having characters that were three-dimensional. But Yellowfang probably had like the most troubled backstory, and there were depths to her, layers to unpack, where she would say rude things, but in reality, like, you could tell that she actually cared. The way she died really showed her appreciation for ThunderClan. She ended up dying in a fire that took over the camp. I can't remember if it was because she was saving some kittens, or she was like, save them before you save me, and then she ended up dying. But I think it was from just inhaling too much smoke, she ended up passing away. So anyway, those are the 8 characters that you can get from here. They don't have my favorite character. My favorite character is Hollyleaf. She comes later. And if they ever come out with another mystery box that has Hollyleaf, you bet I will be spending my entire paycheck to get her. So ultimately, I'm probably hoping for like Brightheart, I don't know, Brightheart, Firestar, Graystripe, Yellowfang, Hawkfrost. They'd all be fine. Tallstar would be kind of funny. I can put him next to my gay flag back there. I'm going to throw Brambleclaw at the wall if I get him. Scourge, I don't really know. I don't really know his story. Wait, really? Oh my god. Wait. Like, out of all of them, she's the one that I would have wanted. Oh my goodness. Oh. It's kind of hard to see because I'm wearing black and she's a black cat. Oh no! Yellowfang! Oh my god. Like, there's nothing yellow about her, which is also really funny. Okay, there's a pamphlet. Oh no, I dropped the box. Let's see about this pamphlet here. Oh, they have little descriptions of the cats. She's not gonna balance. Oh my god, wait. If I don't move. I should not have put it on the shoulder. That is dominant. I don't think this is gonna work, chat. Wait, I got it. Yellowfang, who I have here. A medicine cat has no time for doubt. Put your energy into today and stop worrying about the past. You have a duty to your clan. Stop dithering and get on with it. From Rising Storm. The clan is ThunderClan. Traits: compassionate, ornery, regretful, and wise. I'm so happy about this. Also, like, can I just say the quality? Well, actually, I just had a little piece of fuzz break off. I was gonna say the quality is really good, and then like fuzz immediately broke off. Fur? I don't know if you can, you can't really see, the lighting isn't very great, but like it's very fluffy. And there's like a little tuft of fur here. She's got her scars from battling and such. Scars are embroidered on alongside like her little freckles. That everybody draws those freckles. Like, that's important. Yellowfang has freckles according to Warrior Cat's community too. It's a very high quality plush. And then there's the ThunderClan symbol. I'm glad that they made her ThunderClan. She sacrificed it all. She devoted herself to that clan. It's a very good quality too with the tail. You can't really necessarily pose it. It's not just fluff. It has like a shape to it. Look at her. I'll go put her behind me.